Good afternoon, Marshall. We have a special edition of MU Report for you. Welcome to MU Report Campus Conversations.
Each interviewee plays an important role on campus, and the variety of discussions will be useful for our student audience. Each person is a distinguished student leader on campus with a long list of accomplishments, from presidents and being involved in SGA to even Mr. Marshall himself. And we are looking at this person behind the title.
So grab your popcorn, sit back and relax, because today we're bringing you news and stories you can use. Now presenting MU Report Campus Conversations.
Welcome to this special edition of MU Report. Right now we're about to speak with Mr. Marshall himself, Trey Heyer, a member of Alpha Sigma Phi and Marshall's SGA. I'm Nolan Duncan, and today we're joined by Trey Heyer.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming out, man.
Of course.
So I guess maybe a fun place to start this conversation is, you were voted Mr. Marshall last fall.
I was, yeah.
What was that like?
It's hard to say, but I think to me, it's probably the biggest thing I've done in my life, other than like later on when I get married. Truly, it was the combination of all 4 years of my education and my time here, and I don't ever take that moment for granted.
So one thing I noticed is, when you look at something like a homecoming court, in high school, it's just you throw up the posters, you run around, tell people, vote for me, vote for me.
Yeah.
Yet here at Marshall, I don't know how other universities do it, but at least here at Marshall, it's more than just, oh, vote for me. It's more than just a popularity thing. There's there's a level of campaigning that you would see really for something like SGA. And what I noticed is so many of these homecoming things involve people running on platforms.
Yeah.
Why?
So the bigger picture is not to be just a popularity contest. It's meant for a bigger picture. And I think the big thing this year was, instead of each person having their own individual platform, we each had one unified platform, which was the Marco Meal Share program, which allowed students to donate their own money to help other students in need who needed meal shares or other stuff like that.
And, I never really hear much about these platforms after. So what have you and the woman who won Homecoming Queen, what have you all done to enact that plan?
Since then, not just me and Candace, but also the rest of the homecoming court, we've still been out there trying to raise money for this Marco's Meal Share, and I think we're even including that now with Greek Week this year. So still keeping that platform alive, not just a 1 week thing that we're doing. Instead, it's something that we're thinking about year round, and potentially could be something we do next year for homecoming, but I'm not quite sure how that planning is going to go yet.
And speaking of Greek Week and Greek life, you were formerly vice president of member development. You're not that anymore, but
Yeah.
You are a member of Alpha Phi Sigma.
Alpha Sigma Phi.
Sigma Phi, sorry about
All
that.
Good.
Greek letters, am I right?
Yeah, Alpha Phi Sigma, I think, is the criminal justice organization,
Okay.
but it's close. I get that a lot.
And you've probably seen it firsthand yourself. So much of Greek life has been under a lot of scrutiny. For the past 2 semesters, there's been so much going on. What has Alpha Sigma Phi done to rebuild, specifically that group? What has that group done to rebuild that trust between Greek life and the campus community and faculty?
I think the big thing has just been showing our face and being out there and showing the positive things we've done. A lot of people look at fraternities and immediately think it's like the movies, where it's all the hazing and all the partying and all the bad things. But the reality is that's not really true at Marshall. There's a lot of greater things like community service, like philanthropy. I think the biggest example of that was this year with homecoming. When I ran, I was sponsored by Alpha Sig, and they were out there all week for me, helping me raise money. And I think in total we raised well over 10 grand for the Marco's Meal Share. So I think that doesn't just show Alpha Sig, but it shows all of Greek life can come together and do greater things other than what's just seen and portrayed on the news.
And, I know online I've seen a lot of people mad that fraternities and sororities, they can't hold as many events, at least publicly, because of all the restrictions.
Yeah.
What do you think Greek life still has to do to rebuild that trust, to gain back that respect from the campus?
I think it's just a matter of time. I think there was a lot of stuff that happened in the matter of one semester that really hurt the reputation. And I think as more time goes on and more Greek organizations show that we're bigger than that, I think more events and things like that will come with it. So I think it's a matter of just waiting and rebuilding that image with time rather than doing anything big and specific.
And speaking of building images, you're also the marketing chair for SGA, correct?
That's right, yeah.
So I'll be honest, at least from what I've seen of Marshall's websites, they don't do a good job of telling us what exactly the roles do. I know the website for you is like, that's 2 years old information.
Yeah, it's tough out there.
What does the marketing chair do exactly?
So my main job is to run the social media for SGA. That includes now the Instagram and the YouTube channel, which we are up and starting back again. We started that in December with Jimmy John and David and Caleb Ferguson when they did the toy drive. So now we have a YouTube channel. This past week, actually, we used it for campaigning with the Davis Jacob ticket and the Heisel Clark ticket. We had both their YouTube videos up with their videos, and we put that straight into Herd Life. So I think now with the integration of that, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for the YouTube channel, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
How does that help SGA connect with campus?
I think it just shows more personality and more different aspects of student government. A lot of people see that as, you know, oh, it's just political science people and it's just boring stuff that goes on. But there's a lot more fun things we do. Like we have, every semester we have a kickball game. We have different social outings. You know, we do community service on campus. And I think people just immediately look at student government and see the presidential elections and see that, and that's all they think of it. And I want to turn that image around, and that's what I've been trying to do as marketing chair for the last 2 years.
So, I'm presuming as marketing chair, you have, one of your jobs is probably interacting and being involved with campus.
Yeah.
So, during your time as marketing chair, what have you seen that you think the SGA really needs to focus on to help improve campus life?
I think it's just promoting other student organizations as well. I think student government does a good job right now with promoting themselves, but I feel like one thing that I didn't take enough responsibility for and enough action on was promoting other student organizations, because I think everyone just about in student government is in at least one other organization, and highlighting those I think would have been a better use of that.
That's well said. Trey, I want to say thank you for coming out here today.
Of course.
It was great getting to sit down with you, and we've got many more interviews coming up soon with other members of the MU Reports team.
Welcome back to this special edition of MU Report. Next, I'll be sitting down with Eric Cochran, listing off some of his achievements and talking about his time with the Student Government Association here at Marshall. Hello and welcome back to this special edition of MU Report. Now today I'm joined by Eric Cochran. Eric, first off, just thank you so much for being here in the studio, and I guess we'll just jump right into it. So first off, just tell me about your involvement with the Student Government Association here at Marshall.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, but I've been involved in the Student Government Association in different capacities since my third semester here, so going on 3 years. I've served as a senator, and within my role as a senator, I served as the treasurer. I had a brief stint as the marketing chair, but probably the most impactful, at least for me, and as far as personal growth and stuff like that, is my role as the chief of staff. It's been a wonderful experience this past year, and now with Alyssa and Jimmy John's win last week, I'll get to continue my service within the Student Government Association as the graduate liaison. So I'm very excited to play an active role in helping students around campus through being the graduate liaison.
So for those at home who might not know, really what exactly does being the chief of staff entail?
See, and that's a common question I get. I didn't know much until I stepped into the role, because all through growing up, if you're involved in the news or whatnot, you hear about the White House chief of staff, and you're like, what do they do? Well, it's kind of the same thing. The big role of the chief of staff, or the big responsibility, is planning the homecoming parade. So I did that in the fall. But really, everything else, it's like sort of like a catch-all. It's boots on the ground. I have an office in the student government office, and I'm just involved in whatever Connor's doing, whatever Alyssa's doing. I just am there in any capacity in which I'm needed in order to foster a productive work environment between both like I said, the president and the vice president, or any members of the executive cabinet. I've done projects with Anna Holstein and Ella Bumgardner, so it's just really wherever I'm needed. I just use my skill set, like I said, to make a more productive work environment in order to benefit the student body.
So when it comes to SGA here at Marshall, really what makes it unique in and of itself?
I feel, as far as the student organizations are concerned, I feel SGA is unique in the fact in how far-reaching it is, because we interact with so many student organizations across campus, whether it be through allocating funds through the finance committee, in which organizations, they submit a request for funds and they come in and they meet with the finance committee, and I was the treasurer, so I participated in that, so I got to meet so many people through that role. And then as chief of staff, like with the homecoming parade, all these organizations submitted applications to be in the parade. So I got to meet so many people through the Student Government Association, and that's not really something that you would do in most student organizations. But like I said, SGA is so far-reaching, and you meet so many people, and you work with so many organizations, and not only student organizations, but administrators. So like you just get so many opportunities to interact with people through SGA.
So tuning it more to a personal experience, I was told you were able to study abroad in Greece, which is obviously a once-in-a-lifetime chance. So really just walk me through that experience.
Oh, that was amazing. I would go back tomorrow. It was just, I'm from a small town in southern West Virginia, and prior to college, it was a couple of months before that, I had never left the country. I mean, the furthest west in the United States I've been is Louisville, so I hadn't really been many places. Not only did it expand my worldview, and not only did I learn, because we studied chemistry in Greece, but it really just changed the way I see the world. Like, I interacted with people that I never would have interacted with otherwise. I studied, like I said, chemistry and art in one of the art capitals of the world. I mean, we walked in places that were described in the Bible. I mean, within the United States, you know, old is 1800s, but stuff was built 2,000 years ago over there. So it was just amazing, and not only that, but to do it with friends that I've known for years, it was just a wonderful experience. And if anybody's thinking about studying abroad, I'd highly encourage you to do it because, like I said, it was life-changing. I would do it again tomorrow.
So bringing things back home a little bit, you're from Man, West Virginia, so just tell me a little bit about Man, what home really means to you, and what pieces of home you've brought here to campus.
Really, I credit my upbringing with a lot of where I am today because I was raised around community. Southern West Virginia, Appalachia in general, community is a cornerstone of life. Whether it be my church family, I was raised in a tight-knit church and I'm still a part of it today, who I'm closer with some of them than I am my blood relatives, whether it be school community. I graduated with 92 people, so we all knew each other. We knew each other's life stories. We propped each other up. So I've always been a part of a tight community, and that was a lot of the reason that I came to Marshall, because that's what you find here. I mean, they say Marshall is a family, but you really don't understand until you set foot on campus and you talk to people and you build relationships, but that's really what Marshall's all about. So I feel right at home here, and like I said, I feel like I just bring that community aspect from home to Marshall because it's just the same feeling, and I've loved it.
So Marshall and college in general is really something that's very molding in a person's life. So how has your time here shaped the future for you?
It's really in more ways than I can even put into words. All throughout middle school and high school, I said I wanted to go to medical school. I wanted to be a physician, and you know, the specialty changed every year or so, but I always said I wanted to go to medical school. So I came in as a biochemistry major. I was going to go to medical school. But after my first semester, I had my first biology class and my first chemistry class and whatnot, and I really didn't like it as much as I thought I would. And that's heartbreaking because I felt like that I was leaving not only my expectations, but everybody else's expectations for me behind, because, you know, I always said I was going to medical school, and I was going to be a physician. Everybody was like, oh, you'd be a great doctor and whatnot. So I felt lost. But through all the experiences, through SGA, through studying abroad, through all the opportunities that I've been afforded, I've created a sort of a multidisciplinary education that has forged a path for my life. I moved from biochemistry into education because I thought that was what I wanted at the time. And once again, as life does, things happen, and I discovered that's not what I wanted. And at that time, I was moving into the chief of staff role, and I developed a real passion for helping college students find their way. You know, the irony is not lost that I didn't know my way, so I want to dedicate my life to helping others find their way. So that's why I'm very interested in going into student affairs and into higher education administration, because I am very passionate about the transformative nature of the university as an institution, like you said. So I am a walking exemplar of the transformative nature of a university because, I mean, it changed my life totally for the better. I'm so happy with where I'm going.
So you've made it apparent, I mean, all the arms of campus that you've had a take or a say in, and really when it comes to students who might be new or people who are considering maybe joining the Marshall family, what would kind of be your one piece of advice or encouragement to those people?
ultimately you got to do what's best for yourself, but do it by all means. You really don't know, because I'm first generation college student, so I had no idea really what life at a university, let alone Marshall, was like before I came. But as I mentioned, it totally changed my life. I've met people that I never would have met if I didn't come. I'm probably on a different trajectory. I'm going into a career path that I didn't even know existed before I came to college. So by all means, it might be a risk, but take it, because not only will you grow personally, but it just transforms you into a new person.
Well, Eric, that's all I have. Once again, just thank you so much for your time here today. I know the impact that you've made on campus and to the Marshall family as a whole. So we thank you really as a community for all your work.
Thank you
and
so
coming
much.
up, we have some more interviews.
Our next interview is with Caleb Ferguson, who even as a sophomore has already made his mark here on campus, being a part of the Honors College, SGA, and many other campus organizations. And today we'll talk to him on a special edition of MU Report. I'm Abby Ace, and I'm joined here by Caleb Ferguson, who as a sophomore on campus has already made his mark here, being a part of the Honors College, SGA, and many other campus organizations. Caleb, thank you for joining me today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I know you're from Salt Rock, West Virginia. Maybe talk a little bit about the process of growing up in Salt Rock and choosing Marshall.
Sure. So if you don't know if you don't know about Salt Rock, it's a small unincorporated town right along the border of Cabell and Lincoln County. There's only about 300 people that live there, and so it's a very close-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. You grow up playing with the same people in basketball leagues, going to the same churches as everybody. And so in looking for a university, I wanted somewhere that shared that same value of community and close-knit atmosphere. And only living about 25 minutes away, which is Salt Rock from Huntington, I just was so drawn towards Marshall. I had grown up going to all the basketball and football games here. My grandfather was a passionate Marshall fan, and my mother had gone here for her teaching degree, and so I just felt so drawn to come here. And I commute now from campus, or from home to campus, and so I wanted to be able to go back home when I wanted to. I just felt like Marshall was the best fit.
Wow. So coming here to Marshall, I know you're majoring in political science. You have 2 minors, is that correct?
So actually, I just changed last week.
Okay.
I'm still majoring in political science, but in order to make the most of my time here at Marshall, I'm now dual majoring in both political science and English, and then I dropped one of my minors, and I'm now only minoring in constitutional democracy.
Wow. So with this degree, and it seems like you have definitely made your mark here on campus, being a part of many different organizations. What was the process there of majoring and now double majoring in English and political science?
Sure. So I'm a part of the Honors College, as you mentioned earlier, and they give me a scholarship, and that scholarship lasts for 4 years. And in order to stay all 4 years here, because I came into college with about 30 credit hours, so I pretty much had my first year of education done, I wanted to be able to maximize my time and stay all 4 years. And in order to do that, I needed to add another major. And so talking with the awesome staff in the Honors College, I just felt like English was the right fit for me. As we'll probably get to later, I want to go to law school one day, and one of the big things you do there is reading and writing, and I just felt like an English degree would complement my political science degree and my future aspirations really well.
Wow. Talk a little bit about your role on campus as the campus life chair at SGA.
Sure. So last year I had the privilege of being elected as campus life chair. It is one of the premier positions in SGA, in our executive committee in Senate. I'm chair of one of the 3 main standing committees. There's Campus Life, Finance, and Judiciary. So I oversee the Campus Life Committee. I take up resolutions that we pass that pertain to anything campus life, whether that be infrastructure that needs fixed, whether that be events being planned, all sorts of things that relate to student life. They come through my committee. I'm also part of overseeing our community service efforts in SGA. We do things like the Fifth Avenue cleanup. where we clean up trash every semester, and then we report that to the Department of Environmental Protection. And then we just recently got our signs on Fifth Avenue and Hal Greer to showcase that we're a part of that program. We also do things like the fountain ceremony, helping clean up before that. I believe there's a cleanup that happens before then, and just other countless community service opportunities, such as working with the food bank. We've done a lot of that. The animal shelter, I help coordinate all those and get students their community service hours that they need.
Wow. So while staying busy on campus, I am under the impression that you also stay busy off of campus. You did do an internship with Shelley Moore Capito's office, which is a very unique experience, especially for a sophomore. Tell me a little bit about that and what you learned.
Sure. So this past summer, I had the privilege and honor of working for Senator Shelley Moore Capito in Charleston. It was an amazing 6-week experience. I got to work there from July until mid-August, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever been a part of. My main duties there were, taking care of the mail, making sure that constituent phone calls were being answered, making sure casework was being brought in properly, and then going out and seeing the state and all the amazing things that we offer here. That was one of my favorite parts, going with our staff reps and all the amazing people that work there and touring different facilities. I got to see a lavender farm in Boone County. I never knew there was such a thing. And then I got to go up to the Charleston Yeager Airport and see all the amazing things that they've got going on up there. But I've also gotten the privilege of this summer being able to work in her DC office. And so I'll be doing that as soon as the semester's over into mid-June.
Wow, well, congratulations. That is
Thank
really
you.
a big feat.
Thank you.
How do you balance all of this work as a student as well? I know it can probably be pretty difficult, work and school. How do you personally balance all of that?
Sure. So anytime you see me walking around, I typically have 3 things in my hand. It's 1, my calendar, 2, my weekly notebook, and then 3, my work notebook. And so being able to stay organized is really one of the best ways that I can stay on top of everything, making sure I know what I'm doing each week, make sure I have my tasks listed out, and then I check them off as I go through, making sure I have all the events that I'm planning on going to, my classes written down in my calendar so I don't forget to go to them, and also just staying dedicated and knowing that the busyness now will only help me in the future, because work doesn't stop when I get a real job, life doesn't stop. And so just being able to stay organized now and dedicated to seeing your education through is really what drives me to make sure I get all of these things done.
Well, Caleb, I thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me, and I hope some students can definitely take some of the advice that you've given me today and put it into their own lives. You're definitely very successful, and I can't wait to see where the future takes you.
Yes, thanks so much.
Of course. We'll be right back.
Holly, calm me down.
She's starting on 2 or 3.
Do you want me to look at the camera or you?
Start on camera 2.
Whichever. I'm going to start and then I'll look at you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And Tally, growing up in Huntington, we've had some guests in close proximity, but you're from Huntington, you went to Huntington High School. So growing up, has Marshall always been a constant in your life? Has it always been in the plan?
Yeah. So both of my parents went to Marshall. They're both alum of Marshall. My father was also involved in Greek life, as I am. But Huntington and Marshall has always been in my life. I've grown up going to Marshall games and even coming to the Student Center and eating with my dad and with my mom and with my little brother. So Marshall's always been in the cards for me. It is close in proximity, but Marshall's a great university for me.
If I'm correct, you've been a commuter. So being from Huntington, did it make it easier or harder to acclimate to life on campus whenever you were coming from home?
I only live about 10 minutes from campus, so there are pros and cons to it. I'm thankful that I am only 10 minutes away. But I think getting involved in student organizations and having a place on campus to go when I do have those gaps in between my schedule and I don't have like a dorm or like an apartment to go to, that has kind of helped me get involved in campus life. And as a freshman, it's hard to get involved, but I think as the years have gone by, I've gotten more involved, and being a commuter isn't all that bad.
So we know you're super involved on campus. You've worked with the Panhellenic Committee, Tri Sigma Sorority, the Parthenon. Could you discuss the difference between academic organizations like the Parthenon and Greek life organizations?
Yeah. So I joined a sorority my freshman year. We're a social sorority, so it's to meeting new people, meeting new girls. But as I've gotten older, even this past year, I've kind of made it one of my goals to get more involved with the academic organizations like the Parthenon and like WMUL, because I have those sorority positions under my belt, but on a resume, I would like to have more academic positions that I've held. So I've been trying to get more involved in other student organizations just besides my sorority. But even in my sorority, we have roles that do kind of coincide with journalism and public relations and communications, but I would like some more hands-on experience that would look better on a resume and for a job.
Awesome. I know you've recently got involved with the Design Center in the library as a job. You want to speak a little bit about how that coordinates with both your Greek life participation and then also academically?
Yeah. So before the Design Center, I worked at Plato's Closet. I worked there for like 3 years, but like I mentioned earlier, this past year I've kind of made it one of my goals to dip my toes into more of big girl jobs, big girl experiences instead of working retail. And I quit Plato's Closet in September, and I just recently got a job in the Design Center for Marshall Online, and I kind of assist them with designing graphics for campus events that Marshall Online hosts. Anybody that has issues with Blackboard or online accessibility, they come into the Design Center and we help them. And I really do enjoy it. I enjoy my coworkers. I've met people that I've never would have even talked to outside of that. And I think it's given me a good experience for even having a job after college. I love Marshall. I've always grown up around Marshall, like you mentioned earlier. And having a job at Marshall would be kind of like a full circle moment, and that gives me the opportunity to do that.
Great. So you've had great experiences, and specifically with your leadership roles, what have you learned from those?
Oh gosh, where do I start? I never would have a commuter student from Huntington. I never would have expected I would be the president of my sorority, like ever. And it is a full circle moment. I'm very proud of myself, but every day there's something new that you gotta address. But I love the girls that I'm with, and I love having leadership roles and just kind of being someone that those girls can look up to and being a leader and kind of being like a role model. But it is something I enjoy, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. So.
Awesome. And how is your time as the PHC president different from Tri Sigma president?
Yeah. So Panhellenic is the governing body of all of the chapters that we have on campus. So being on Panhellenic, you're kind of that guide for all of the chapters. You kind of have to making sure all of the chapters are on the same page, all of the chapters are informed. Whereas for being chapter president of Tri Sigma, I'm just making sure I have my 40 girls informed. So Panhellenic is kind of a wider scale of it, but being a chapter president, you kind of have like smaller, like nitpicky things that you have to make sure, like getting leases signed for a house, making sure attendance is like up to date. Whereas like I didn't have to do that with Panhellenic because I didn't have specific girls I was over. I was just kind of the broad leader of that community, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And with your experience in these roles, how do you see that taking you in your future career?
It's definitely helped me as a leader. It's definitely helped me speak up and speak up when needed. But I really do think it will help me in a job, just being a leader and taking control of a room and knowing when to speak up and when important things need addressed.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me.
On this special edition of MU Report Campus Conversations, we get to sit down with the man, the myth, the legend. Some know him as Rockin' Randy Roberts. We know him as the professor, but Randy Yohe. We get to see the man behind the title, behind all the journalism and being a teacher, and what makes Randy Yohe Randy Yohe. Welcome back to this special edition of MU Report Campus Conversations. I'm sitting here with Randy Yohe, and we all know him as the world-renowned journalist and the professor here at Marshall University, but there's a lot more behind that goes into the title of Randy Yohe, and we want to know more about Randy Yohe as a person. So Randy, before the journalism and politics, when you were growing up, and what parts of a kid do we still see in your work today?
Doing something new and meeting new people. It's all about newness. I mean, I went through a lot of different schools in suburban Detroit, and so each place I met new people, and I was excited about that. And that kind of led into journalism, where you're not sitting at one desk every day. You're doing something new every day. It's new information. You're meeting new people, and so throughout my life, I've really enjoyed that, and it kind of keeps me going, keeps me stimulated there ever since from when I was a kid.
And you kind of talked about how you were a lot of different places. You're in Huntington, you're in Detroit, Michigan, stuff like that. What is one moment from your life, not necessarily your career, that kind of changed the way you see the world and different people?
Well, I think that when I started at Michigan State University, I charged in as a political science pre-law student. I was captain of the debate team in high school, involved in student government, which you know well. And I thought I was going to charge right in, get a law degree, and then become a senator or something like that. And college, boom. I mean, there was so much interesting things happening, meeting new people, and I got involved in the campus radio station. And that kind of leaned me over toward telecommunications. So that was a big change for me, because I thought, you know, charging in from 8th grade on, that I was going to be a poli-science pre-law. And every once in a while, maybe I have a tiny bit of a regret that I didn't get a law degree. But I think that was the big change for me.
And what are some personal values that guide you when you're deciding how to tell a story, or just how to treat people and report on it?
50-50. I mean, when you're telling a story and it has two sides, sometimes more than two sides. Sometimes stories have 2, 3, 4 sides. But you want to have equal amounts to both sides of an issue or a question. You know, you want to take your personal politics and your personal beliefs and put them aside. And sometimes I've almost had to lean the other way, because, you know, I have strong personal beliefs, but I leave those on the table when I'm doing a story. And the other thing is to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, to tell a story. You know, we're not as much journalists and reporters as we are storytellers. I mean, you got to be able to tell the story, even if it's a short little piece or a big long form informational piece. You want a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you want to be a good storyteller.
And you kind of talked about the politics here. You work for WVPB right now. You did legislature today and do a lot of politics reporting. Can you kind of talk about what keeps you grounded when the work gets heavy or the stakes get high, and kind of how you keep your own bias out of those?
To simplify, you know, if you're reporting on a bill or something that's very involved and has a lot of loose ends and loose wires, you want to take a look at how it's going to affect the person back home, how it's going to affect the family back home that has to worry about their wallet and their water and their air and their lifestyle, and their environment around them. You know, so you want to always boil it back down to whatever is going to be good for your viewer, your listener, if you're on radio or television, and then just trying to make sure that the story that you're going to tell, how politically involved it might be, is going to be something that's going to help the folks at home.
And what's so we talked about your journalism and what you've done for kind of what the politics, but what's one life lesson you can take away from the journalism aspect that helped shape you to be the person you are today?
One life lesson. I think it goes back to being fair. You know, you want to make sure that you're going to be fair in your reports. And you want to be entertaining. I mean, I've learned that I'm an entertainer somewhat, and infotainment is okay. There's nothing wrong with being able to inform somebody, entertain somebody. I mean, I started out as a feature reporter, and I just loved doing fun features. Well, I got pushed into becoming a general assignment reporter, and then I blended into a political reporter. But I think at heart, I'm still a feature reporter. And so I like to have a good time with something. You know, I did a story on gas prices, which are all the rage right now. And I held a sign up and said, talk to me about gas prices. And I got all kinds of people coming in. So I made a little bit of a light of a very serious subject and still trying to keep that balance. And I get pretty proud of that.
And you obviously are not just the journalist, but you also came back to Marshall and you decided to teach and mentor different students. How has that been meaningful to you on a personal level?
Wanted to do it for years. I mean, it was something I wanted to do. I was in commercial television for 25, 30 years, and I always liked two other things. I thought it would be interesting to go into public television because you don't have that commercial onus hanging over your head. There's no, what am I thinking of? Commercial intent, you know, there's no advertisers that you have to deal with. And the other thing was Marshall. I mean, I've lived here in Huntington since '88. I've become a Marshall fan. I did some sideline work when I was at WSAZ with Marshall football and basketball. In fact, I was the basketball announcer one year, 1988, 89. So I've always been endeared to Marshall. And then when Dr. Quick and this new administration came into the School of Journalism and Mass Communications, there was an opportunity I quit my full-time job and I talked to Swindell, who I'd known Chris from way back when he was working in Lexington and I was working in Huntington. and it just was a good fit. And I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm hoping that I'm being able to, quick as when they'll say, just tell them what you know, talk about the things that you've learned. And so I'm hoping to, it's a whole new generation in 2026 of broadcast journalists and young reporters, and I'm hoping just to send them on their way. If they want to get a reel and get a job, fine. If they just want to learn more about how to be a communicator and a reporter, that's fine. Whatever they need, I'm here to help them.
And that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for sitting down and joining us. I'm glad we could finally learn more about you outside of just the journalism and everything like that. Coming up next, we have the exclusive sit-down interview with the director of the School of Journalism and Mass Communications in Holly Belmont. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Holly Belmont. Thank you for joining us today for this exclusive interview with the director of the School of Journalism, Dr. Robert Quick. How are you today?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So today I wanted to talk about a little bit of where you originate from, and also a little bit of what we can expect in the future from the J School. So starting off, I'd like to talk about where you were born, where you grew up, that kind of thing. So tell us a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So basically where I was born, and no one's probably expecting this answer, would be not dissimilar to West Virginia, but in England. So I was born in the north of England in Blackburn, Lancashire, which was a mining town. Now, I moved from there when I was very, very young, but certainly I was born there, so I'm a Lancashire lad, I'm a northerner, and up there it was a very sort of poor part of the country with the mining pits and the coal workers, and that I still have, even though I was 4 years old, I still have sort of vague memories of that time, and then I moved down early on to then live in Cambridge, England, because my father was chaplain down there. He was chaplain at the Cambridge University as well. So I went from like north to then south of England, but England's small anyway, but that was where I began. And I lived in England for most of my life up until 2001 when my American wife said, hey, I really miss America, could we move back over there?
Okay, so what were you interested in as a child?
I was interested in, I think, actually this is going to sound really weird, but my parents told me that I was obsessed with collecting hats. When I was a young lad, a wee young lad, we went to Texas. I kind of been more than a wee nipper, 8, 9 years old, and I remember going to Texas, and they had these cowboy hats, and I just wanted one, and then I wanted to collect baseball hats and stuff. I remember I had a collection of hats. That's what I remember as a young kid. Like I just wanted to wear a hat all the time, and now I never wear a hat, which is weird. But I started out by wanting to be a cowboy, I think.
Okay, so no interests in media, in TV or radio.
Well, okay, so that was when I was young, but when I became a teenager, radio really became my thing because I would listen to it late at night in my bedroom. I should have been asleep, but I was listening to it in my bed, and I was really drawn to the magic of, I had my little portable radio, and there was someone, because I was listening to BBC Radio Cambridge, it's in my town, there's someone, a couple of miles away from me in a building live, and I can hear them put together this show. They're talking to me and they're playing this music. I remember just being really transported by the magic of that, listening to someone broadcast. And the first ever experience I had was, they didn't have college radio at that time, but they did have they still have a hospital radio. Yeah. So I went to my local hospital, Radio Annabrook's, and they said, do you want to get involved? And I said, yeah. So, just broadcasting to patients. And it was a bit of a litmus test because the station was in the basement, which was number one, really hot. The basement of the hospital was so hot with all the heating and ventilation. And then it was also close by to the morgue. So occasionally you'd see like a dead body go past you. And if you could handle the dead bodies and the heat, you could handle radio.
So speaking of not having college radio, as you just mentioned,
yeah.
We know that many of us know that you started the first college radio station in the UK.
Yeah.
So what sparked that initiative?
Well, it wasn't my idea to do that, but I'd had a gap year. Most students in England, before they go to university, it just isn't a thing in this country. But most students before, after graduating high school, right, as a senior and then going to college, most students take a year off and they do one or two things typically. They either get a job to raise money for college for that year, or they travel and they have experiences to sort of broaden their horizons and to expand their experiences, to find themselves. For me, I went to America for a year, which is then how I met my now wife. got involved in college radio there, and it blew my mind. This was in Kansas City. This is William Jewell College, KWJC, had a show on there. And then when I went back, I went to Oxford, and I didn't have the idea, but I was part of the first group that set it up and founded this Oxford Student Radio, which we called Oxygen 107.9. And I actually myself and my friend, my best friend Damien, we launched it. We did the first ever launch show. And he's now chair of journalism at Oregon State University. We didn't know what we were doing really, but it was glorious, and we created radio history. Yeah.
So you've worked in American radio as well as, I know you've worked for the BBC, British Broadcasting Company. What cultural differences have you seen between British radio and American radio?
That's a great question. Well, first of all, a big difference for a start, just between British media as a whole and American media. I remember, because I grew up watching the BBC and there's no commercials, right? So I remember coming over here. Well, first of all, I remember watching Friends on TV over there, and they would just go for a couple minutes, then the screen would go black, fade down, and then fade up again. Like, what is that about? Like a scene change? Only when I came to America and all the commercial breaks, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how can anyone watch anything? How could anyone watch any? Being bombarded with all these ads. It took me years to get used to that. And I think the media tends to be a little bit slower paced, perhaps, in England than America. Just so, very, very quick. But for me, the home of radio is America. All the greats have come from American radio. And a few years ago, 2017, we won a Marconi Award, which is like the Oscars of radio for my college radio station. Now, when I took over the college radio station as supervisor back in 2007, it was this is at William Paterson University of New Jersey. They said it was like falling apart. There was like a leaking ceiling with a bucket underneath. 4 students were involved and 40 community volunteers, and they said, this is our station, and if you change this, we'll destroy you. And it was really bad. And the university said, you've got 2 years, turn it around. And it was a disaster. It was probably the least likely to shut down, the most likely to shut down and least likely to succeed radio station, college radio station in the country. Well, within a decade, it transformed to winning the Marconi Award 3 times. It's the second most awarded college radio station. And what we did was we took that culture, which was just like everything was falling apart, and we transformed it into a place of real excellence and students getting jobs. And it was a long journey, and it was rough, but we did it. It was fun.
Yeah. So you've seen a lot of fruit produced from just that one college radio station that you helped start.
Yeah, and before that I was Director of Student Media at St. Xavier University of Chicago, so I had students, I was overseeing the radio station there. And the same thing, we were in trouble, and they brought me in to sort of resurrect the station, and we ended up winning a Silver Dome Award from the Illinois Broadcast Association, and really it just turned that station around massively to where it is now today. So I consider myself a resurrection specialist in a way, that I go into places and I sort of try and help turn them around.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marshall and the BBC, I know that you have fostered partnership between them. Can our campus community expect anything from that partnership in the next year, 2 years, 5 years? Yeah,
so we're working with myself. I'm an executive producer now for BBC Introducing in America, but they came to me 2.5 years ago because I got this email out of the blue, which is kind of ironic. They said, we want to set up a meeting with you because apparently you know a lot about college radio. Because I founded College Radio Day and the College Radio Foundation. So we had this Zoom meeting, and I remember they were surprised, like, you're English? I'm like, yeah. And I actually tried to get a job with you years ago. But it's good because I can culturally translate. So we ended up doing the pilot for a college radio show, BBC Introducing America, and that pilot was played to the senior executives of the BBC, the head of BBC, and they greenlit it, they liked it. But at that time, the BBC chose Tennessee to launch as the first state, not West Virginia, because Nashville and country music is so big in England and the UK. And Europe, actually, country music is huge. So they launched there, but at some point it will come to West Virginia and we'll be ready.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's all I have for you guys today. Dr. Quick, thank you so much. I can see that we have I can see we have a lot of interesting things coming up with you as director. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
That wraps up today's special edition of MU Report Campus Conversations. We hope you enjoyed getting to know the stories of the people who make campus special every day.
We want to thank our guests for taking time out of their hectic schedules to share their experiences and insights with us. Conversations like these make everyone know they are a part of the herd.
And remember, this show is all student produced from behind the scenes to right here at the desk. Be sure to join us next time for more conversations, more perspectives, and more stories you can use. Thanks for watching.